and welcome to Lush Living. I'm Katie Lush, the creator, and today we're just going to go over a few of the props that are not only used in the Reboot 6-week program, but also great things to build your home collection for if you're going to do any workouts from your house. So I'm going to start with a mat. Lots of people have yoga mats, and I fully understand that. You actually don't even need a yoga mat. You could also just use like a towel or carpeted floor. But this brand, Manduka, is probably one of my favorites. I find it to be a really good quality mat. It's a tiny bit thicker than some of the other yoga mats I've seen in the past. And as a result, if you use a hardwood floor, it has a tiny bit more cushion to it, which I think is helpful for some people who feel a little bony when they lay down on flat, hard surfaces. So a really nice yoga mat, something to invest in. Something else that we use is a yoga rope. And this one is extra long. I believe it's about 10 feet long. So it's got a lot of length to it. So if you've got long limbs, or the gentleman can use a longer strap. But it's a nice thing to have for a couple different reasons. First, when you use it, because it's firm, it doesn't have any give to it. It's not elastic, but it's, like a firm woven material. It doesn't give when you go to grab it. So for instance, when we do some of our stretching moves, where you say like put a strap around your foot and you're going to stretch your leg and you have to use your arms to lift your leg, it's helpful to have a woven stiff material to grab onto. And also if your grip strength needs a little bit of improvement, you can then wrap your hands into the rope to give you a little extra oomph. So your hands don't maybe have to work quite so hard, but your arms still are. And it gives you a little extra help to hold your own leg up. The other thing that's really nice is we use the metal piece as almost like a weight, like a plumb line. So we can use it to line up some of our alignment points, which is really helpful and beneficial. But also in the Reboot program, we use the strap as an alignment tool. So you can line it up on your back so that your tailbone and your mid-back and your head can all line up and you can feel something solid that you're resting your spine on, that when you go to move around and I cue you through a couple different motions, you have something, it's almost like a tactile cue to help you out. Now, you don't necessarily need a yoga rope. You can also use like a robe belt or just a regular standard belt or even a tie, something that's a little bit stiffer. But a yoga rope is a nice investment. They're not too expensive and they fold up into a really small size. So then we also have resistance bands or TheraBands. Manufacturers have different tensions. This one's blue. It's a little bit of a medium tension. If you have a latex allergy, you can also look to see that certain companies and brands will have latex free. You might want to look into that. I'm going to create a list and I'm going to hopefully have options that are non-latex and then regular. But we can use this for a lot of good arm work. You can tie it on doorways for extra give. A lot of people use TheraBands in PT, so you might even already have one at home. And obviously when you roll it up, you can travel with it because it's so small, right? That's sort of the beauty of it. It's very light, it's small, it's very portable, but it's very beneficial and it has a lot of different uses. You can use it for the arm work, the strap stretch we were just talking about. You can use it for a strap stretch if you don't have a yoga rope. And it works fine. It's just that it has a little bit more give to it. So it might be a little bit harder to use, but otherwise it works perfectly fine if that's, what you're trying to get accomplished. But resistance bands or TheraBands are obviously a great investment. So then we have yoga bricks or yoga blocks. I have 3 different choices here. These are actually also very readily available, but I'll also create a list of great places to find them. But you have kind of like a thinner version. This is made out of like a styrofoam or a plastic. It's very lightweight, and that's kind of nice if you need to use it to hold on to things. This one in particular works as a really good spacer. So if I need it like between my legs or maybe like between my arms, it works as a nice spacer, and because it's so lightweight, it's not adding any extra weight to my body parts. But here's a small one. The next one's a little bit thicker in size, so also very lightweight, very versatile. We stand on these a lot, and so you'll find that to stand on the lower surface, the shorter one, the thinner one, is actually feels a little safer to stand on it because you're that much closer to the floor. The taller one, because you're at a higher height, might feel a little less steady because you're a little further off the floor. So something to keep in mind, I actually like having both because sometimes this as a spacer is a little bit better than this as a spacer. So if I need, again, to like maybe slip it between my legs to squeeze, this proportion is actually a little bit better than this one. But again, this is great. It works for both uses, but this is just another option. Then we have the eco-friendly cork one. And so it's nice because it is eco-friendly, it is cork, but it is heavy. So if you want to add some more weight, like we can sometimes toss these around and practice just grabbing some grip strength, twisting it. It adds a little bit more load because it is a heavier object. It is eco-friendly, so better for the environment versus the plastic ones. But it's the thicker version, right? So again, if you stand on it, it might feel a little bit scarier being a little higher from the floor, but also it acts as a better width for some inner thigh work maybe, but that's just another option. But again, because it's heavier, it's gonna add more weight to the workload. So these are yoga bricks or yoga blocks or squares. So then we have the beloved half cylinder, also coined as a half dome, but it's not a half dome, it's a cylinder, right? It's cut in half. So a lot of people have worked on foam rollers before. It's those long tubes that you can lay down on, and some people roll parts of their body out. But this is a half cylinder. This one in particular is about 3 inches in height, so it's actually quite low on purpose. So we do a lot of calf stretching utilizing the half cylinder. You can sit on it, which is sort of a nice bonus. And we can do some rocking moves while seated on it. It also gives you a little bit of height that if you wanted to work on sitting on the floor, it gives you an option to sit on this so that you're not fully on the ground. You just have a little bit of a rise. And it will also help to bring your pelvis in a little bit more neutral position, which is really nice to have, especially if you find that you're going to sit in a chair for a long time. This is a nice go-to. It's, again, that styrofoamy, it's very lightweight, so it's very versatile. It's a little bit bigger, so it's not the easiest thing to travel with, but it is easier to travel than with your long foam roller. So just something to keep in mind. These are a little bit harder to find, the size. You can just cut a foam roller in half, which some people have done, but the height of this is sometimes too high for some people's calf stretching. So if that's what you're going to use it for, you may want to look at the list that I'm going to create and go from that wholesaler because it's going to be a tiny bit shorter and a little bit easier in your foot. But just something to keep in mind with the half dome, one of our favorites. So last but not least, we have home pillows, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But we also have the fancy wedge. So some people have this wedge for sleeping purposes. A lot of times it's marketed for reflux. This one, I believe I measured it once, and it's about 6 or 7 inches in height on the tall end, and then it goes pretty low to about 1 inch at the bottom end. And this is something nice to have. It's an investment. It's a little bit expensive. This is actually coming from the Gyrotonic brand system. So to purchase it online, it's a little bit pricey. Again, you can find competitors. They have a little bit higher decline, and that's fine. But what you're using it for is a bolstering system. So I'm going to move these out of my way. So when you go to lie down, I teach a lot of bolstered work. So when you are lying down, you have the ability to have your head up a little bit higher, your shoulders a little bit lower, and then your back will be more likely able to stay flat on the surface below. And we talk about that a little bit further in the Reboot program. But when I lie down, it puts my upper body in a position that allows my mid-rib cage to be really heavily anchored to the floor without a lot of effort. And so for us, that's an alignment point of being neutral, that my floating ribs and my hip bones are all in the same plane. And let me show you this just with my jacket off so you can just see it a little bit closer and upright, or up close. So as I go to lie down, you can maybe see that my bra line is right on the edge, and then it puts me in just a position to allow my back to be a little bit flatter. You can maybe see that on the floor because my upper body is slightly curled up. Now, if I don't have this and I go to lay completely flat, it's not the worst thing ever. It's just that my mid-back is going to have a little bit of a harder time feeling really heavily anchored to the floor. And I'm going to have to work a little extra to get my rib cage to line up with my pelvis. So that's all. So we talk about some bolstering. So you could choose to invest in a wedge, but also you can take some couch pillows, right? I'd usually use these decorative ones. You kind of want to fluff them up a little bit. You can use bed pillows as well. But what you're going to do is you're going to stair step them so that you have one pillow flat and you're going to take the other pillow and you're going to stair step it up a notch so that my shoulder blades are going to rest on the lower pillow and my head is going to rest on the higher pillow. And that's going to create a really similar effect to what the bolster just did a moment ago. And you can maybe see that my mid-back is also pretty heavy on the mat here. I don't have a little bit of an arch. I'm actually quite relaxed and neutral. So again, a lot of these props, you don't necessarily need to purchase anything outright, but these are some other options. So we have, just to review, we had some pillows, we had a wedge, we had some yoga bricks or blocks, we had the half cylinder, we had a resistance band, a yoga rope, and a home mat. So these are all really great pieces to have in your home. They're small, they're lightweight. Some of them you might already have. If you don't have a brick, you could always use a really thick book, or you can even sometimes just take a pillow and fold it in half. With the half dome, if you don't have this, you can roll a mat up and make a really similar surface. Again, if you don't have a resistance band, that's fine. You can use a belt or a tie. There's always some swaps. And in my Lush Living Starter Guide, I actually have a list of the prop swaps that you can alternate use, so you can just use at-home objects versus making the investment. But if you're wanting to, these are all really great products to use. So last but not least, I want to show the one product that might actually be worth the investment that's a little bit more pricey, takes up a little bit more real estate in your home, but very well worth it. So, a lot of people want to build some more balance and some more coordination. So therefore, I highly recommend the Bosu. And if you're unfamiliar with the Bosu, it is almost like a Swiss ball on top, where it's an inflated ball. It's a little bit rubbery and it's got a little bit of give to it. And then when you flip it over, it's a flat, hard, solid surface with some handles on it. So we do some balance challenge work standing on the Bosu, and just because you're on this, rounded surface, it's already a bit of a challenge just being there. So that's great for building all those tiny small muscles, those intrinsic muscles, extrinsic muscles in your feet and ankles, as well as some good proprioception. And then on the flat side, it's a little bit more challenging, but it's the same idea that you're on sort of this rocking surface, and you can work to build some balance and strength of challenging yourself of what does it feel like to, even though you're on a flat and level surface, that the surface then moves and is unstable. Think like ice, right? Like when you go to walk on ice, it's usually flat and level, but then it's unstable to be on. So that's the Bosu. So it's a little bit more expensive, but it's a great piece to have in your home to invest in to build your challenge and balance. So that's it. So those are all the great props and tools and things to help build out your home workout, gym area. It's nice to put all the props in one location so it's easy to grab them when you go to do your videos or your workouts. But that's it. If you have any other questions, please let me know. You can find me at katielush.com, KATYLUSH.com. Shoot me a note. I'm all over Facebook and Instagram at Lush Living, and on Instagram at Katie Lush Living. Thanks for joining me, and I hope this helps you out.